Welcome to Android Authority on Air, the original Android Hangout show on Google+. I'm Derek Ross, and this week I'm joined by fellow Android Authority writers and YouTube sensation-ers, Joshua Vergara and Christopher Wook, as well as Jonathan Franklin, returning guest, and returning longtime guest, Dan Charlton. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
How's it going?
You know what, Wookie? I love your backdrop. I mean, I got the Androids in the back here, you know, my little Google Android shrine, if you will. And then I see your badass guitars in the back. Like, you're doing it right. You know what I mean? Like, that is a backdrop to have. I love it.
It's actually just the background of my office. Like any of the videos I do on YouTube, it's just the cameras there and facing the other way.
And then everyone here is like, "You have an office?"
That's where the magic comes from, his video reviews and his articles that he writes. And Josh, we see your backdrops, your new camera you got for you're going to Mobile World Congress, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I decided, I needed to up my game because it's going to be just 3 days of madness. So I picked up a new camera for the trip.
Very nice, very nice. And as you guys can see, Scott is not joining us this evening. He's MIA. Hope all is well. Anyway, so let's. What are we going to talk about this week? Well, we normally go into app reviews, talk about what's popular the past week, what new apps came out, what apps got updated, all this same old dance every week. But since the Super Bowl is tomorrow, we're going to start out by talking about some apps on Android to help you stay up to date with the Super Bowl if you're not able to watch, you're out and about, or if you need something to do while you're watching the Super Bowl. Then we're going to hit some rumors, because this week had all sorts of rumors all over the place for various upcoming devices, rumored devices. It may or may not be illegal to do certain things with your mobile devices in the U.S. now. And we're going to talk about some ecosystem stuff, a little bit of rootin' and ramen as usual, and Dan's going to yell about something about patents as usual, because that's what Dan does, and we love him for that. So, Super Bowl, what are you guys doing for the Super Bowl, Dan? You have any big plans?
Not really, no. I'm going to go watch the game with some friends. I don't know that I'd really call it a Super Bowl party. Just me and several friends I have that all live in one house together, so just hanging out, really.
All right. How about you, John? Any big foosball plans?
Well, for the first part of the Super Bowl, I'll actually be partaking in some of these apps because I have to work until 8 o'clock, and then I'll catch the rest of it when I get to the house. So.
All right. How about you, Josh? Any big Super Bowl plans for tomorrow?
Mostly staying home, but aside from watching the game, just 2 words: wing stop. So I'm going to probably get like a 50-pack and just go nuts on the food.
You're going for the Atomics?
Maybe like 5.
Hey, you gotta have wings at a Super Bowl. I'm a big fan of wings. How about you, Wookie? What are you doing? Eating wings?
Maybe. I literally actually didn't know the Super Bowl was tomorrow until you just said that. I don't even know who's playing.
A true techie.
You know what? I will have to agree. Since we had to reschedule the show from our normal night, Thursday night, I was talking to the guys saying, hey, should we do it Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night? And my boy Johnny Frank here, he's like, well, Sunday's a Super Bowl. I was like, huh, I guess it is. So, yeah, I'm not a huge Super Bowl fan. I always, you got to watch, for the commercials, right? I love the Super Bowl commercials. I'm not a big football fan, and I never have been. I always played other sports in the fall, such as soccer, so I never really got into football. But
Football.
I will pay attention a little bit, so I can be a man and talk about it from time to time. So let's get into some apps that those of you that care about the Super Bowl. What can you do with the mobile apps, John?
Well, in my case, I work on Sunday and used to work on Saturday, so a lot of times I had to improvise and kind of keep track of the games from apps. So you really got a lot of good apps out there that let you set up your own favorite teams and watch live feeds kind of on the go. And the first one, and definitely the most popular one, is going to be ESPN Score Center. And, of course, if you got an ESPN account, it's going to sync up all of your teams and give you customized alerts. And from there, you can watch any kind of live, game feed like you would in a web browser directly from the application, and you can get notifications straight from the app, and get it on a widget too if that's your thing. And it was not long ago that app got completely redesigned, so it's pretty nice. The second one is CBS Sportcaster, and it's pretty similar to ESPN in that you can customize your own news feeds and your sports teams, but it'll also pull in a Twitter feed of relevant commentators during the game that you can kind of keep track of. If you're not in a place where you can listen to it through radio or watch it any kind of way, then the commentators pretty much stay on top of the game in
That sounds
depth.
like a pretty neat app. That sounds like a pretty neat app. So it's just a feed of commentators, people on Twitter, talking about the game.
It gives you both sides too, and it gives you their opinions on even if a penalty's about to be overturned, they're whining about it. So
Always whining on Twitter.
You can get right in the action right with them. There's another one called Thuuz, Thuuz Sports, and all these apps kind of have a common theme where you can customize your teams and get push notifications. But this one's a little bit different in that it ranks your games by the level of excitement. So if you got a team that's just getting destroyed and blown out, then it's going to rank pretty low, and it's going to tell you that's a pretty boring game to watch. Where a really close match, a really exciting game is going to get boosted up to the top. And
John, with Thuuz Sports, I want to interrupt you here. I actually talked to their app developer recently. The Thuuz Sports app comes on the Hisense Pulse, one of the newer Google TV set-top box devices. And whenever I wrote my review on it, for some reason I called it, instead of Thuuz, I called it Thugs. So they're like, we're not entirely hardcore, we're not thugs, but thanks for referring to us as that. Or he emailed me saying something like that, and I had to go back and edit the article. And I've always called, I don't know, it's been in my head ever since I saw the app, a long time ago. I've always called it Thugs, and apparently I was wrong all this time. I felt kind of embarrassed, but hey,
flattering for them too.
Yeah, I know, flattering, right? I thought you guys were, we're hardcore, you're thugs,
But the good thing about that, it does make sense for Google TV because it does give you, if you're on, whatever your network provider, you can actually put that into the app and it'll find a game for you. If it finds a exciting game that's, it's really good if you're kind of a casual fan that just really likes to see the really close matches and the ones that kind of have those down to the last second kind of finishes. It's a good app to kind of really keep a heads up for those kind of games.
That's gangsta.
Does it on the Hisense connect into TV so you can jump straight to the live game if you get that channel?
That's a good question. I haven't.
That's a good question. I will actually try that out just to say that I did it.
Report back.
I'm throwing it in the comments.
Yeah. So, is there any other? Is there an official app for the Super Bowl, John? An official NFL sponsored app?
I think the official one is just NFL 2012. It wasn't really one of the better apps, and most of these apps on here also let you track any kind of sports that you could possibly want to watch. There is what used to be Score Mobile. It's called the Score now, and it's pretty similar to the rest of them. It just got a hollow UI update and different navigation, but it's good for lightweight. There is one though called Super Bowl 47 Guide, and it's provided by Verizon Wireless, but you can get it on anything. And it's actually for people that are touring in New Orleans, and it lets you find events and local restaurants and nightlife and points of interest, and you can create calendar events and bookmark anything. So it's good for the people traveling there. All
right. So there's a handful of different ways to find out, get your sports information on Android, obviously. So these are a few choices. If you have something else that you use to stay in tune with, sports or the Super Bowl or football, let us know in the comments, and we'll be sure to add it to the list.
This one worth throwing in there, just if somebody wants to watch the live stream, is firstrow1.eu, because you can literally watch the streaming video online.
Okay, firstrow1.eu.
I'll put it in the comments if anybody wants to get it. But
okay.
Have any of you ever used, or I guess really even heard of, Google's official sports app?
I remember it.
It's called Scoreboard, I think.
Hmm. They pretty much
You can
deprecated
choose
it.
the teams you want to follow, and it'll keep you up to date on it. I don't know if anybody's. It's not a particularly popular app from Google, considering some of their other ones, like Maps, for
You
example.
know, I'm curious what Google Now will do. So let's say you had a couple different football teams in your in your Google Now sports card configuration. Even if one of your teams doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, will you get a Super Bowl score just because it's football?
It
Yeah, you
will-
probably will.
I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'd be nice with Google Now if you could sort of pick sports that you care about, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily follow one team in football, but I care about pro football.
Well, and actually Google Now and sports related, this week, randomly people started noticing that you can actually put college sports teams in there.
Oh, you can finally?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
previously you were only able to put pro teams in there. So if you were you followed collegiate sports, you were not so happy. But right now, I have Penn State basketball listed in there, and I had the Ohio score pop up the other night. So yeah, I was now. One thing is I couldn't actually go into the sports card Dan configuration and add my own team. I had to. You remember when Google Now first came out? You actually had to search for your team, and then it became a card. So that's how you have to do it now. I tried to add it by the card or by the card setup under settings. Yeah. And I searched for Penn State, and it didn't work. But so then I went to Google search. I typed in Penn State basketball, and then I looked at my phone, and it says the Iowa game's tonight. So it.
Oh, okay.
So try it the old-fashioned way. That worked for me. So there must have been a server-side patch update in the past week. But so those of you that, like I said, like collegiate sports, congratulations! You are now able to get those card notifications.
Looking up Spartan basketball.
There you go. So let's talk about some device rumors. We had a lot this week. More rumors about the Galaxy S4 from Samsung. The HTC M7. Some more information about that. Motorola X phone. And Qualcomm and all sorts of stuff. So let's talk about the big guy. I mean, they're all big, but I think a lot of people are excited for the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S4. The most recent tidbit of information about this phone says that an internal contest by a mobile retailer in New Zealand, one of their flyers from their contest got out, and it said that the winner of this contest is going to get a Galaxy S4, and the contest just happens to end on April 8th. So if the contest ends on April 8th and it says the winner is going to get a handset, chances are it's going to be launched right around then. And that kind of corresponds with the previous rumor saying that it was going to be available April 15th, the week of April 15th. So somewhere around there. So I would definitely put that as, second week of April. It's definitely going to be available just because, we've seen that a few different times now.
Yeah.
And like I said, previous leaks said that there's going to be a mobile unpacked event here in the United States in March, which will announce the phone coming out a few weeks later, sometime in April.
I don't know. I think there's reason to doubt the advertisement that was dropped as well, just given the language. It didn't even say Galaxy S4. It just said Samsung S4.
Well, I call it the S3 right now and the S2.
Right, but there's an implied G in front of that. You don't write it like that.
I don't know.
You write SGS3 or SGS2 or Samsung GS2.
Yeah, but I hear people all the time say, "Hey, what phone do you have?" "Oh, I have the S3." That's just.
Yeah, you also hear people say they have a Droid when they're holding a, I don't know, LG something. There's never been a Droid ever.
Well, we'll see. Obviously, what happens in the next few weeks, but I'd like to think that because it's a mobile flyer, that people that are in the know, knew that it was implied.
Oh, I think the timing is realistic. I'm just questioning whether or not the people who wrote the advertisement are in the know, or whether or not the people who wrote the advertisement are just guessing that that's when it's going to come out.
I think that's
what everybody else is saying it's going to come out.
I think that's sort of what it is, to be honest, because probably the timing corresponds, yes, and then in April we should be seeing something like a Galaxy S4 or something big from Samsung coming out. But whoever made that advertisement just knew nothing, probably. That's what I think. Like,
yeah, that's just have this isn't corroboration. This is just everybody else's speculation leading to more stuff based on that speculation.
You know what? That does make sense, because I've seen people give away devices that aren't even announced when they are coming out yet. You know, hey, we're going to give this away. You know, like, huh, it's not even available yet.
Whenever we can get our hands on one.
Yeah. So that's entirely possible. I will give you that. They are just playing along with the rumors, saying, you know what, we are going to give one away. But I'd like to think, with the amount of rumors we've been hearing about, such as the screen size, you know, and the processor.
Yeah, but this time last year, we heard a ton of absurd rumors about how the Galaxy S3 was going to have a transparent and flexible display, and it was going to be edgeless, and it was going to be magnificent, and it was going to be the most extraordinary thing since sliced bread.
And you know what? They sold a whole hell of a lot of phones.
I'm not saying it's a bad phone. I'm just saying that we heard all of these ridiculous rumors, and everybody got their hopes up that it was going to be this like magnificent manna from heaven. And of course, it was just, you know, a cell phone.
There's a point where
it's just a cell phone.
Well, my argument a year ago was that they didn't sell us the specs, Dan. They sold us the S package. They sold us software. Their marketing was all about S this, S that, S this, and S that.
Yeah, made for humans.
And I think they're building their brand that way, and I think they're going to do that even further with the S4. They're going to come out there and, you know, move more towards, you know, their S platform, if you want to call it that. That's my thought on it. So, moving on to more rumors, HTC is going to have a event here February 19th. Interesting enough, they're going to have one in London and in New York City. Usually you don't see two events happening on the same day in different cities, different continents, you know, announcing the same device. So maybe I don't know. There's the M7 as well as two other new devices, right, Dan?
Yeah. They also have excuse me. They also have an M4 and a G2. The M7 has been pretty well leaked in terms of what it's supposed to look like. The M4, though, is looking more like the 1S replacement, the sort of middle-of-the-road one. It's supposed to have a 4.3-inch 720 display, which is still extremely pixel dense. It's probably, I haven't done the math, but it's probably pretty close to the 1080 5-inch ones in terms of density. So you aren't losing a whole lot on that other than just physical real estate. It's supposed to have a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Qualcomm, what I would assume is an S4 Pro processor, so that would be a dual-core crate, not quite second generation, but almost there, paired with the Adreno 320 GPU, so the same GPU that's in the quad cores. But that's speculation at this point. And then a 13-megapixel camera that's supposed to also be in the M7, paired with the image sense chip, I would assume. And then the G2 is supposed to be the small, or the smaller one, the budget end, a 3.5-inch HVGA screen on a 1 gigahertz processor. So certainly a very budget level phone there.
You know what, and you know that does make sense to have additional phones out there besides just the M7, because there was 3 versions of the the 1 series initially, so they're going to have to replace them all.
And unlike, say, certain other platform manufacturers, HTC wants to compete everywhere. They want to be able to sell phones in China. They want to be able to sell phones in India. They want to be able to sell phones in Africa, where people aren't going to pay $650 for the phone. They're going to pay $50 for a phone, and they're going to get whatever features you can get for $50 for a phone, because that's what they can afford.
Yeah.
And at least if that's true with the mid-range, I mean, I've had a chance now to look at those dual-core S4s, the Snapdragons, a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And they do really well.
Oh, sure, they're great processors. The new budget crate processors are great processors. They're
Yeah.
not slouches, right? Like Qualcomm's just going to eat up the low end market with those.
So I'm still a little confused about this. The M7, you know, we've seen pictures of it.
It looks like a Droid DNA.
Exactly.
Oh, sure.
It looks like the DNA, and there's a rumor still that it might come to Verizon. That just does not make. I don't believe that rumor. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I totally agree. I don't think that Verizon's going to have two phones that close from the same manufacturer because they don't want to confuse people more than they already have with everything else.
I don't know. I could see them going for it just because HTC might want to sever itself from that Droid line, so to speak, just to roll out an M7 on every U.S. carrier.
What if Verizon has it on the slate to do essentially what they did with the DNA, where AT&T and all get the 1X, and then Verizon wants to rebadge it with a, you know, basically a version 2 with slightly better hardware and throw it out at Christmas time so they can make a ton of money on it?
Yeah, I could see Verizon holding off and doing a Droid sort of offset from the their primary line of ones or M's or whatever.
So call it the Droid DNA 2, and it'll be the M7.
I think the Thunderbolt has pretty much lost its legacy at this point.
You know what? We're going to talk about that right now because you brought it up, John. The Thunderbolt, 16 months after ICS release, this past week, Verizon rolled out the Android 4.04 update for that ancient beast. You know, Android 4.0 has been out for 15, 16 months. Verizon doesn't care. They're getting it to the Thunderbolt. You know, a year and a half. They're rolling it out.
Where's my jelly bean, Verizon?
I just want to point out, Derek, that I supported Android 4.0 on Thunderbolt before CyanogenMod did.
I had an incredible
And long before HTC and Verizon did.
On your Tiamat ROM, Tiamat kernel.
Kernels, yeah.
All right.
Well, it's a 16-month-old phone. That's, I mean, if people got it when it first.
More than 16 months old.
Oh, is it more?
Well, yeah. I was just saying 16 months ago, Android 4.0 was announced.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. The Thunderbolt is actually Verizon's very first LTE phone.
Yep, it's about.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So it's what, 2 years old?
2011.
4 months ish.
Yeah. So
it's about 2 years old.
So, you know, right around now is the time where people were getting upgrades anyway. So they're going to be getting a Jelly Bean phone. But hey, you got ice. If you're not eligible yet, you're getting ice cream sandwich on that phone. All right. So back to rumors. Sorry about that. All right, I want to talk about the Motorola X phone because we had some juicy tidbits of info come out about this phone this week. So, for those of you that aren't aware, the X phone was originally brought up from the Wall Street Journal, I'll just say 2 months ago or so, saying that Google was going to be working on an X phone, and I'm sorry, it is Google. Motorola/Google was working on an X phone and an X tablet, and immediately everyone was like, "Oh my God, shut up and take my money." So anytime we hear rumors about this, it makes us Android fans a little giddy inside. So a little background on this before we get to the rumor. On the Q4 earnings call last week, Larry Page said that phones shouldn't go splat when you drop them, and he also said that phones should last through the entire day. So what does that mean? Well, phones should be, not break easily, and they should have a big ass battery. So, following up what he said, this past week we had some new rumors about the X phone. We heard rumors saying that it's going to have a Kevlar chassis, which obviously would help it not go splat. There's been previous rumors that Google is looking into like ceramics or something with a bendable or flexible type display. So we didn't hear anything about that this week, but we did hear about a Kevlar chassis, and we also heard that it's going to have a huge battery. Think like Razer Max style here, like a huge battery. interesting enough, it's going to have a really good camera, supposedly. We heard that it's going to have a Sony camera and a 4.8-inch screen, a micro SD card, quad-core processor, and stock Android. Now, that's the coolest thing, you know, in my opinion, stock Android. So my question to you guys is this a shut up and take my money device? You know, do you believe these rumors to be true? What are your thoughts on this?
If these rumors become, let's say, trumors, that they are going to become true, I would say yes, because I've been waiting for a long time, ever since Google got acquired Motorola, I should say, Motorola Mobility. What I've been looking to see out of them just hasn't materialized until now. And everything that you said, like coming from, like, say, me and Wookie, we know that people hate it when there's a great phone out there and it's missing key features like batteries, expandable memory, stuff like that. Motorola has proven already that they can have all of that. The Razr Max, to me, was a great phone. That thing could last for days. And if that's going to be in this phone, expandable memory, big screen, stock Android, I think that's a really big deal.
Plus, people go nuts for those Sony camera sensors. People love Sony cameras.
Yeah.
Dude, they make really good cameras. I think the Nexus kind of sets the software bar as a reference design, and to me, Motorola needs to be Google's way of showing OEMs that you can be competitive without making the software look like garbage. Basically, they need to throw a premium hardware device on the market that says, "Look, we'll give you everything that the S4 has. We'll give you everything that HTC has to put out, and we're going to do it with better-looking software, with faster updates, and with a better overall user experience, and just blow them out of the water and force them to catch up."
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still important to note that there's a difference between releasing the device running stock Android and releasing a device that is part of AOSP.
Yeah.
You can release a device that has customized proprietary hardware or software on it that is still running stock Android. You put a customized camera app that still runs against the stock framework. You put in a customized calendar or email or whatever other applications you want that still run against the stock framework, and you have a device that you can pretty much support from any Android-based platform with easy updates where all you have to do is just roll out app updates.
Quick question for all you guys. Sorry. If Motorola is coming out with this, or rather, let's say Motorola is coming out with this phone, or something like that. What were you guys' thoughts on Moto Blur? Do you think this is going to be the death of Moto Blur if this is the trend from now on with Motorola and Google teaming up?
I think it'll depend on the market. If this gets traction in a way that Motorola really hasn't been able to outside of the Razr series on Verizon, then I think, yeah, it'll start a trend that they'll stick with. But I don't think if it doesn't get traction, I think they'll continue to explore other opportunities.
They've been moving closer to stock as far as the look and feel anyway. I don't think it's that big of a change for them to really go all out stock, because they really haven't put a ton of customizations on top of it aside from some image assets here and here. Nothing really major, and they do have some useful stuff like smart actions. But.
I'm hoping that this does come to fruition. I hope it comes to Motorola's longtime friend, Verizon. I hope that it comes with an unlocked bootloader. If not, I'm sure somebody in the Android community, will make that problem go away. But I'm hoping that we don't have to deal with that. I'm excited. I will buy it the moment that it's announced if these features are true. Some people are saying, "Oh, it's a 4.8-inch screen," and the trend today is 5 inches. Well, you know what? 0.2 of an inch with no bezel or a very, very small bezel is going to be fine. You're not gonna hate, So we'll see. Obviously, in a few months, rumors, may come true. They may not. We'll find out come Google I/O. I assume that's when this is supposed to be targeted. Now, I'm gonna add one more thing to the rumor mill that I think the X phone is real, and something to back it up is this past week, Motorola Mobility posted a job opening on LinkedIn for a manager, a product manager for the Motorola X phone, and then the job posting went away. So either someone at Motorola is trolling the hell out of everybody, you know, posting a job for an unannounced device and then taking it down, or the phone is definitely real and it's coming. So I would highly doubt them to be trolling the world. So,
I think that would be great, though, if they were.
Yes, that would be hilarious.
Right now they're sitting there. It's a Saturday night. They're all out, reading all the Android blogs, and news blogs all over the world, toasting and laughing. And then we told them it was an actual job position, And that could happen, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So
They're
I'm
really
buying
coming out
one.
with the Razr Max.
So what do I know? So Wookie, you have you're on Verizon.
Yes.
Josh, you're on Verizon, and John, you're on Verizon. Is it if these things come out, are you buying it out of contract right away?
I don't know if I want to be tied down to a contract right away at that point, to be honest.
Well, I'm saying out of contract, like if it's whatever the retail price is, would you if you're not ready for an upgrade or would you buy it?
Do you mean
might.
with Verizon or to switch carriers?
Well, Josh was already on Verizon, and I'm saying
I'm on Verizon as well.
And yeah, exactly. So the phone comes out on Verizon. You aren't ready for an upgrade yet. Would you spend $600 if it costs $600 off contract on it?
I usually never buy phones off contract, to be honest. The only one that I would be the Nexus 4 for obvious reasons. But yeah, if it was that good, though, I might try to find a deal. Maybe find someone on eBay who used it for a week and then grab it that way.
Well, I have the DNA right here. I would get rid of that in a heartbeat for the Motorola X phone if these specs and features are all true. And Motorola makes great radios and great hardware. That's already a proven fact. So I'm excited, and I hope it happens.
It's certainly going to be running a Qualcomm radio.
What's that, Dan?
I said it's almost certainly going to be running with a Qualcomm radio.
So what you're saying is AOSP support for custom ROMs is going to be a big pain in the butt. But you know what? If it runs stock Android, I don't need a custom ROM.
The good thing with Motorola is just antenna design.
Well,
they do
yeah,
so better
and
than Samsung there.
AOSP isn't going to be that difficult because the Nexus 4 also runs a Qualcomm radio.
All right, so
probably got the same processor, probably clocked up to 1.7 gigahertz.
So since we're talking about Qualcomm, Dan, your favorite chipset developer, let's talk about a leak from them this past week. So somebody got a hold of some documents they weren't supposed to, and then Qualcomm said, "Hey, take those down." And so there's nothing like to confirm a rumor when takedown requests are served. So anything interesting from their roadmap? Well, I mean, things that we can kind of already guess. They said they would have a test device in Q2 2013 for the unveiling of Android Key Lime Pie. That kind of makes sense because Google I/O is going to be in Q2. Chances are a new version of Android will be announced. K is the next letter in the alphabet. It's already been rumored to be Key Lime Pie multiple times. So having it come out of Google I/O, all those stars aligned correctly, it looks like it's going to happen. So what I'm most intrigued about is they said they were going to have a device running Key Lime Pie. So is that just their internal test device, or are they going to be testing a new device to launch on their new processor running Key Lime Pie? So what device are they talking about? Are they talking about a new Nexus device, or I'm interested.
I suspect they're talking about dozens of devices.
Could they be talking about the Motorola X phone, Dan?
I think that's possible. I think they're probably talking about that and tons of other devices because the new Snapdragon 6 and 800 are supposed to be hitting the market around that time. So, and they've already said they've got what, like 150 partners devices lined up for those. Something ridiculous like that. So yeah, I'm sure they're talking about not just one device, but tons of them. I'm sure they'll probably also update their mobile phone reference. I can't remember the weird acronym they use for their phone reference device. They recently updated their tablet, and they usually do their phone in the spring.
Yeah.
What's the time frame for the PDK now? 3 months ahead of a final software release, I think, when they basically giving vendors like Qualcomm time to get drivers
Platform
ready.
developer kit.
Yeah, it's usually between 1.5 and 3 months between when the chip.
Oh, I mean, there's
the
a
chip
likelihood
play
they've
around
already
with,
gotten
and
something.
phone makers actually have a phone ready.
Yeah, I mean, they've probably had at least some form of code for.
Oh yeah, no, they're seeding them already out to distributors or to OEMs.
All right, so let's talk about another rumor, speculation. It's pretty much confirmed at this point. A white Nexus 4 showed up originally on Picasa because that's where Android phones go to leak all over the place. Once they pretty much come to Picasa, they're real. I mean, that unfortunately that's how it goes. But it was only one picture. Now, then 2 days later, a Vietnamese website posted a dozen Nexus 4 photos from various angles, close-ups, and everything. So it's real at this point. So my question is why are we seeing a white Nexus 4 when the black one can't even stay in stock?
Yeah.
Anybody have any thoughts about that?
It's a little ridiculous. They can't keep the one they've got in stock, and they're planning another one. On the other hand, I think that it shows they're planning on ramping up their production. At very least, to bring out another color means, more supply of some kind, if nothing else.
That's what I was thinking too. I wonder if LG is putting together just a massive amount of devices, black or white, and they're all just going to come out at once at some point.
Yeah.
Now, I hate, and it wasn't just LG or Nexus devices. Samsung did it before. Almost every manufacturer does this. They release the standard color, and then a few months later they release the cool colors. They release the whites, the blues, the reds, or whatever. So what the hell are you supposed to do for the people that pre-ordered and bought it day one? What if they wanted a cool color? What if they wanted a white Nexus?
Yeah.
So what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to try to sell their black one, on Swappa or eBay, and then go out and buy a brand new and end up probably losing some money? I mean, why can't you release a white one and a black one at the same time? I don't understand.
Here's the great thing about the white Nexus. Once you've got it, you can paint it any color you want. You already have it at home.
So
they need to be selling a Nexus with a black paint kit or a red paint kit.
Yeah, you can buy the paint separately for $79.95 or so.
You can change it every day.
It might be hard to paint all the sparkly glass though.
Well, I'm sure you could take it to a Nexus customization shop, John, and they'll get it done for you. That'll be a new
some glitter, sprinkle it on there, then paint it up.
Wookie's gonna start this up in New York. He's gonna file for articles of incorporation tomorrow. Nexus Sparkle.
It's already done. It's already done.
They'll do it right there for you in the subway.
It took me like $20 and maybe 15 minutes worth of work to replace the entire outside shell of my Galaxy Nexus to polish it up. And why can't they just sell an entire shell kit and be done with it and make it easy for the users to swap it out?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I feel like the only one sometimes that misses those days when you would get a phone and you can go to like an Asian market somewhere and they have like the entire shell available in different colors and you can customize your phone so easily. I miss that so much. Honestly, I'm happy that this white Nexus is coming out. Honestly, sometimes I prefer white phones over the black ones. In this case, not so much, but I like that they have a choice. I would love to see them come out with more colors, but I kind of miss the days when you would just be able to pop the back off and then replace it with something else, and all of a sudden you have a different looking phone.
Yeah, I mean, I get that you can't just pop it out and change it, but it does seem stupid that they release them separately, right? Like, look at Apple, as everybody always does, right? Like, they release white and black at the same time in all of the different size variants all at once, rolled out, done, one shot, right?
So that's something Apple's doing right.
Yeah, with Android, you get the black 16 gigabyte model, and then 3 months later, you get the 32 gigabyte model, and then 3 months later, you get the white one, and then 3 months later, you get the white 32 gigabyte one.
And then you get the Max HD LTE 4G. You know. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to some devices that we actually know about instead of just speculating. Dan, you had an interesting tidbit about the Asus Padphone 2.
Yeah, so the Asus Padphone 2, which isn't even on sale in the United States, it's only in, I think, just Japan and Taiwan, has sold nearly 1 million units, which is roughly the same number of Surface RTs that Microsoft has sold to distributors. Not to end users, just to distributors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, loves me some Surface RT, you know?
Yeah, so how's that for a unified mobile computing platform, Microsoft?
And it costs probably right around the same amount.
Yeah, to buy the tablet like holding thing and the dock for it and the phone, I think is still less than a Surface.
All right, so the Sprint Galaxy Nexus, it's not dead yet. It received Android 4.2.1, the latest version, the up-to-date version of Android this past week. Yeah, then we get to its ugly cousin, the Verizon variant, which you didn't receive an update this past week, but the phone did reach end of life on Verizon. You can't buy it anymore, so that's some news.
Come and get it. Come and get it.
Which also means Verizon can pretend it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Verizon doesn't have to update it. They don't kill it. I would assume, fingers crossed, confidence high, that an official over-the-air update would be coming soon. Generally, Sprint and the Verizon variants are not too far off when it comes to updating each other.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, but don't go snorkeling. Like Dan said.
If Verizon forgets about it, everyone get rooting. Honestly, just get custom ROMs. Just get going. Like honestly, it's the best one to do it for.
And you're right. You look at it, Josh. You look at the phone and it roots itself. It's so easy because it's a Nexus device.
Type 3 words and you're done.
Yep.
But not everybody can do that, nor should everybody do that. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to do that. That's where...
And yet you chose to slave yourself to Verizon.
You know what? I have to slave myself to Verizon, Dan. I live in the middle of nowhere. We only have Verizon here. Or I could have 2G GSM.
They're usually interested in people willing to privately host their tower.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So AT&T or T-Mobile, do you want to put a tower in my backyard? I'll service it.
They might be willing.
Yeah, I will.
And they might pay you for it, too.
I know they do. Yeah.
Or at least pay your phone bill.
Yeah, go ahead and put it. It'll be like a jungle gym for my son to play on. He'll be able to climb the tower.
Exactly. There's no downside here.
Yeah, I know. And that reminds me of that Simpsons episode from years ago when they put a cell phone tower in Lisa's bedroom because she liked technology. I don't know if you guys remember that episode, but yeah, I used to like the Simpsons a lot back in the day. Yeah. Anyways, so Verizon, like we said, updated the Thunderbolt this past week, and they sent out an update for the nearly 3-year-old HTC Droid Incredible. Coming April 29th or April 27th, I don't remember which, the phone is officially 3 years old, so another couple months. Verizon...
The Incredible and not the Incredible 2 or the Incredible 4G LTE. The Incredible.
Yeah,
hey, I'm celebrating over here. I got my Incredible.
So Josh, fire it up and get your over-the-air update.
I did as well. The Incredible
over-the-air update aims to, get this, lessen random reboots. Which is good.
Not eliminate, just lessen.
Not making any promises here, guys.
Yeah, we're not making any promises. But okay, I'm sorry. Who still uses the Incredible as their? I'm sure some people do. But
a guy at work that works with me does.
So I mean, there obviously has to be a lot of people still on the original Incredible, or because they pushed out an update for it.
Yeah, just a little tidbit about me. This is honestly one of my favorite phones ever. Like, this was one of the most sturdy phones I've ever owned, and it's still really great.
I just sold one on Swappa the other day. It was actually my wife's Incredible, and I had an Incredible as well. We loved those phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're great phones. People are still interested in them. I sold mine for $40, I think.
Yeah, until like a week ago, mine was in use by a coworker of mine who had lost his phone.
Yeah, the Incredibles and the Incredible. You know, my Incredible didn't run Dan's team at kernel. It wouldn't even boot with his kernel, but my wife's phone liked his kernel though. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know why I think it had to do with AMOLED versus SLCD.
Yeah, that could have. Yeah, that's right. Because Verizon, the original ones came with AMOLED, right? And then they had the SLC. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to a Dan topic here. Dan, a few days ago, it became technically illegal in the United States to carrier unlock your phones.
Yes.
So what does that mean? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Digital Millennium Copyright Act basically says you can't do much of anything that could potentially lead to you illegally downloading copyrighted material, or otherwise transcoding, stealing, transferring the media format, in any way really acquiring other than what the MPAA and RIAA tell you is acceptable. But because that's such a ridiculously broad standard, they allow the Library of Congress to dictate exceptions every year, or excuse me, every 3 years. And so exceptions are for things like saying it's okay to have books on tape for deaf people because every 3 years the lobbies for disabled people come and remind the Library of Congress that deaf people still can't hear. Right? So they're going to need to have something in Braille. And blind people can't see, so they need books on tape. And every 3 years, everybody has to go and lobby for these things because every 3 years they're still true. 3 years ago, the Library of Congress opened the door for jailbreaking or rooting your devices, them from Apple. Apple controls the software, Apple controls the hardware, and they can tell you what you can and can't do with the software and hardware. So that $650 you paid was just a nice tiny rent. Yeah.
So this has nothing to do with actually, like, unlocking your bootloader or rooting your phone like some people think.
This isn't going to affect you putting a custom ROM on your phone. This is going to affect you buying a locked AT&T device and trying to switch it to T-Mobile.
It's just confusing for some people because a lot of people say, unlock a bootloader or unlocking a phone or carrier unlock. Because you say unlocked, it's not technically the same thing, but so
right. It's always a question of what are you unlocking, right? You say unlock. Do you mean your car door? Do you mean your house? Do you mean your bootloader? Do you mean your carrier locking? What do you mean when you say unlock? There's lots of stuff to unlock.
And you can buy unlocked phones, such as the white Nexus 4.
Potentially, assuming it's not just sold by T-Mobile. The black one is only sold by T-Mobile right now.
In the other usage case, you got like Verizon, which you can move a Verizon phone to Sprint, but it's going to be kind of limited by. What you're going to buy Verizon, which is the worst edition of any of the phones that would come to any carriers, with a locked bootloader and move it to Sprint. No, I can't see a lot of people doing that. So
it's a pain. It's possible, but it's a pain.
It's possible. It's just not worth it. So I just don't see it being a huge use. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to affect a lot of people, but it's still, the legislature itself is crap. But
yeah.
So speaking about the legislature being crap, the same week that it became illegal to do this in the United States, Canada, our cousins up north, decided that we should propose legislature to have all carriers unlock all devices for free if a user suggests it. So Canada's doing it right.
Well, obviously Canada just loves piracy. That's the
only explanation. They're there to steal our prescription drugs, and now they want our movies and music too.
Those heathens upstairs.
American
Oh.
Junior.
America's troll cap.
Yeah, actually, that's you've commonly heard Canada referred to as America's hat. No, it's America's troll cap. That's what it is. All right, so let's talk about a little bit of ecosystem news here before we wrap up. It's more along the lines of Samsung and HTC news, but hey, it deals with Android as a whole. So Samsung was announced to be the top mobile vendor in the U.S. for 2012. They sold more mobile phones than any other manufacturer. They actually remained king of the market with a massive 53% market share. So 53% of all mobile phones sold in 2012 were in the U.S. were Samsung devices.
That includes dumb phones. And
That does include dumb phones, but still, Samsung is king.
I mean, that's massive.
I don't care.
Phones sold in the country were made by Samsung.
Yeah, and that includes dumb phones, low-end phones, mid-grade phones, as well as high-end phones. And number two, second place, was Apple at 43.7%. So about a 10% difference, but Apple only sells high-end phones, the iPhone. So as
it sells the old iPhones and pretends that they're low-end phones.
Oh, there you go. Okay, you're right.
And to be fair, they sell a crap load of those older ones too.
Oh yeah, because they knock the price down a lot when a new one comes out.
Yes, and they force the carriers to pick up the difference. Because they still charge the carriers the full price that they were the day they went on sale.
So Samsung likes the stylus. We know this because of the Note 2, the Note 10.1, and the rumored upcoming
Note 8, the Note 47, 8. The Note 12, the Note fill-in-the-blank number.
Basically, they're noting all the things with a pen. And to continue their stance on long live the stylus, they purchased 5% of Wacom. And
Wacom.
What's that?
Wacom, I think. I think it's Wacom.
I don't know how you say it. Wacom. So Wacom, Wacom, whatever. They purchased 5% of them. So who is Wacom, you might ask? Well, they're pretty much what's considered the industry standard for digital drawing tablets. Basically, if you're an artist and you draw digitally, chances are you have one of these tablets.
Yep.
So if you run Linux, you've seen a plugin for Wacom tablets too, because it's there by default on Ubuntu and several other distros.
Yeah, it is. So
yeah, they're extremely useful actually.
Oh,
It's a black slate. You have a pen, and it's very responsive. So, like you said, drawing tablets, you can draw with those. But they're also really good for really quick usage if you need to do things really quick, like video edit.
So interesting. They purchased 5% of the company. Obviously, they have some motive behind it. I mean, they have tablets that you can draw on. That there has to be some correlation there. Somebody was thinking something along those lines. Do you guys have any thoughts on why they're backing this at all? Just besides, hey, you guys are doing it well, we're going to do it too. We're going to help you out. Throw some money your way.
It's the beginning of It's a tiny beginning of a takeover.
Small steps.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an investment in their future products. They want to make sure that Wacom has money because they want to make sure that they have a reliable supply of these styli.
Yeah, and if there's anybody that they could go to for really good stylus technology, it is Wacom. It really is.
The thing is, I should really remember this better because it was me who wrote a story on it. But somebody was patenting basically what looked like an alternative to the S Pen that had a ball on the tip that would provide kind of tactile feedback to give you more of a feeling of writing on paper. Or I remember one of the things they mentioned in the patent was using it for games to be able to provide resistance from the stylus, and maybe that could have something to do with Samsung's interest in Wacom, but I don't know about the other way around, what's in it for them. because they seem to be doing pretty well anyway.
Cash money.
The other thing I think is
Who says no to billions of dollars?
yeah. So many desktop computers are going touchscreen, if not, not necessarily primarily touchscreen 100% yet, but with Windows 8, you look at the all-in-ones and all of them are touchscreen enabled. If we ever get to a world where that's the standard, your stylus is going to be, for people using Photoshop, that's going to be your precision tool where it used to be a mouse. So, there's probably still a future for the stylus even in 10 years from now, just for stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all speculation, but I mean, Samsung does have a computing division, and if they in the future they make touchscreens on computers are still not that great, but if you have a good surface for a stylus to go nuts on, then something like this could lead to a partnership that creates a device like that.
Go ahead. Whoever was about to talk.
I was just going to move on to the next topic, but if you guys want to still talk about Sammy and their styluses or anything related to that, that's fine.
What I was going to say is I don't really see a stylus on a computer touchscreen, just because of, for one, ergonomical concerns, like how hard is it to have a screen that you can look at and also draw on with a pen that you can use for everyday work. I mean, I know, for example, artists will have a display laid back, but I can't really imagine, for example, typing or editing video on a display like that. And if you have it upright, I'm having a hard time imagining a stylus on that as well.
I guess I was imagining like a yoga, so it flips all the way back, and then you can do what you need on it, kind of like a tablet. I know they've tried to do that before, but it's not great. So
no, that would make sense.
Hmm.
It's nice how the segment has come full circle back from a decade ago when tablets started being made. Not when the iPad came out, contrary to what Apple would have you believe. There were tablets before that. Decade before that, when they all had styluses like this.
Yep.
And that was the interface mechanism.
Yeah, that's what people criticized about the first Note too. Is like, wait, a stylus again?
Yeah.
Good technology never dies, I guess. So let's move on and talk about another thing from the Android ecosystem, the Android community. This week we had clarification about last week's cease and desist takedown of HTC and basically what we speculated on the show last week turns out that's kind of truthful. HTC was just protecting their name, their trademark. It wasn't because the site in question provided custom ROMs or even RUUs. It was because the site had HTC in the domain name, it used HTC logos, and it was made to look like an official HTC site. So they didn't want to confuse customers. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I'm okay with that explanation. They didn't attack the dev community like so many people thought.
No, absolutely. I mean, from the outset, I've seen htcruu.com before, right? Like, I'm familiar with the website. From the outset, when HTC went after them, I wasn't surprised. It was obviously trademark infringement.
Yeah.
Like, everybody was freaking out about how they're going after the dev community. They didn't care about the guy distributing the RUUs. They cared about the guy using their logo and using their name. Right? Distribute whatever you want. It's freely accessible. They distribute it on their website.
And then making money off of ads.
Whatever you want, that's fine. But don't do it under their name. That's illegal. Of course they're going to go after you for trademark infringement.
That's a lot of work to really try to make your site look like an HTC official website too.
Yeah, why waste your time with that? Make it look like your own thing. Make it obvious what you're doing. Don't try and trade on their name, though.
I agree. All right, so let's talk about rootin' and ramen real quick. So Cyanogen released 2 updates this week to existing apps. The phone app received a major update. It now gets call log statistics, a lot more than the stock statistics. It's pretty neat. You want to check it out on Latest Nightly. If you've got anything in the past couple days, you probably actually have the new phone app with statistics built in, and you also probably have the new Chronos which is the weather calendar clock widget all in one. It's not called Chronos anymore. It's called Clock or C-Lock, however you want to call it. The background on that is they were sent cease and desist to stop using Chronos because it was very similar to Cronus, which was a trademarked name, and they don't do anything similar. They're not related at all. They're spelled similar and sound similar.
I thought that it was the same name, just not at all the same thing.
No, it was Chronos. There was an H versus not an H.
Personally, I think they should have just changed it to Chronos with a K.
Yeah, there you go.
We're going
but
Roman
either way,
not Greek.
But you know what? It makes sense now calling it Clock or C-Lock because it's a clock on a lock screen. It's kind of like a play on words. And it doesn't really matter what they call it in my opinion. It's a very cool widget that starts out as a clock. If you expand it, you can drag around the screen and to expand the widget. If you expand it, make it bigger, boom, here comes weather. You expand it even more, boom, here comes upcoming calendar reminder. So it's a very cool widget. Who cares what it's called? Either way, it got a new name.
I don't see why anybody was upset in the first place, especially when you have 75 things called Carbon right now, and all of them seem to be getting along fine.
It's because somebody had a trademark and wanted to feel special about themselves.
That's pretty much all that's all that it was. Somebody had a bad day and they wanted to feel good about themselves.
It's no different than Apple. We're gonna whine because you over there are more popular than us and we feel sad and pathetic. So I'm gonna run my mouth about these patents until you stop and admit that I'm better than you because I feel bad about myself.
Somebody did something to their Cheerios,
Yeah.
And last but not least, on the rootin' and ramen front, the Verizon Galaxy Note 2 and the Sprint Galaxy Note 2 now have official signage and mod 10.1 nightlies. Jonathan Franklin, are you running one?
Not currently. I'm giving it a little bit more time to bake because.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Well,
it's still got some issues, and going back and forth between 4.2 and 4.1 is kind of a pain because of the multi-user stuff. So.
All right, well, let me know here in the near future. I'm sure you'll eventually flash it, so let me know here in the future.
I'll move to it pretty soon. I just can't. I haven't done.
Okay, all right. So Dan, you want to wrap up here with hating on patents in our patent wars segment, as you always love to talk about?
Yeah. So we remember initially there had been a preliminary injunction issued against the Galaxy Nexus, and this is for the Apple versus Samsung 2 trial, the one that is just starting now. Apple had been issued that injunction, and then Samsung appealed. The appeals court, the way it works is they don't actually, the entire court doesn't hear every appeal. They'll issue some smaller group to hear it. And so the three-person panel that heard the original appeal unanimously decided to throw out the injunction. Apple then appealed that decision to the full court, basically asking for the entire panel, I think it's 9 or maybe 12 judges instead of just 3, to hear their case, and that was resoundingly rejected. They decided to not hear it at all. Basically, Apple was suggesting that the appeals court was creating new precedent, and so that deserved a further hearing. And by rejecting that argument, the full panel basically agreed with Samsung's view that no, Apple's just dumb and doesn't understand the law here because the appeals court didn't create any new standards at all. They just actually applied them, which the original judge did not bother doing. And that same standard that was set by the appeals court was used by that lower court judge in the Apple I later post-trial bickering to uphold not expanding the damages that Samsung had to pay and to uphold not issuing injunctions for their infringement. So it is very sound legal ground. It's just that Apple apparently doesn't understand the law.
I've thought for a while, Dan, that they don't understand the law. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's quickly becoming that, is that they just don't understand the law. I mean, when you look at, Google had to make this weak deal with the FCC to get out of, or FTC to get out of potential antitrust stuff. And what they gave up was saying that we're not going to seek infringement or seek injunctions on people infringing FRAN patents, but there's still exceptions to that. For example, people that refuse to take a license at any fee, you can still seek an injunction against them because they're refusing to take a license no matter what that license is. Gee, what did Apple say to the court just recently? Oh, that's right, they said that they refused to take a license at any rate. So Google's still free to seek injunctions against Apple for FRAN patents because Apple refuses to follow the law. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous, and the ground is quickly falling out from underneath of them. As they keep appealing these decisions, it just gets worse for them. If they try and appeal this one again, which they do have the right to do, they can try and appeal it to the Supreme Court, but that's not going to go their way. And it's likely to go their way a lot more harshly than just not being heard.
Well, I'm curious, how that pans out in the near future. I'd like to, see Apple get a taste of their own medicine, but fingers crossed.
Are we even at all surprised that that's happening? That the ground's kind of coming out from under them? Honestly, because they try so hard to do something that everyone is honestly just becoming tired of.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Supreme Court has a lot of leeway in terms of sort of what they can do with a case when they decide to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? The appeals court is deciding a relatively narrow issue of whether or not this particular injunction can stand for the particular reasons that are in front of them. If Apple appeals it to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court decides to pick it up, they could very well expand that to a much broader range of issues that are at hand in these trials. And, start going into patent validity questions and start going into particular litigation practices when it comes to patent cases and do something like, say, force a USPTO review on patents before allowing a trial to be held on those patents, because otherwise we run into problems like the Apple versus Samsung 1 case where the jury awards, nobody can really figure out how much money based on infringement on this particular patent that after the trial we come to find out wasn't valid in the first place.
Okay. So I'd like to, on a personal note, close up here by saying that Wookiee, our droid DNA now has a quote-unquote working Cyanogen Mod unofficial ROM. Now, it's called a working ROM, but I'm just going to say that means it boots. It should really be called a booting ROM, because I'll give you a rundown of what works. The display.
Good to know.
I didn't freeze there.
I know.
So the real with the radio interface library, the radio doesn't work, which means no data. There's no sensors that work. There's no Wi-Fi. Basically, you boot it up and you're like, all right, cool. No. That's about it. But you have to start somewhere. I'm not knocking the dev. Obviously, Drew X2, keep doing everything you're doing, and you and everybody else working on, all the other devs working on it, keep doing everything you're doing. I can't wait to run Cyanogen Mod on the DNA.
No, neither can I.
It's just funny that people were flashing this, and I'm like, hey, I can't get stuff to work, but right in the
work in progress.
It's a work in progress, People, hey, I can't get Wi-Fi to work. What do I need to flash? No, nothing works yet. Give it another 2 weeks or so, and we'll, I'm sure they'll have everything working. Fingers crossed,
Yeah, I remember the first time I flashed the first quasi-working AOSP-based ROM on my Evo, 2.5 years ago, and nothing worked. No data, no Wi-Fi. The display worked. You could kind of get touch to work sometimes, but just everything was broken. That was pre-Cyanogen Mod 6.
Yeah, so eventually devs do what they do best. They get stuff to work. We just got to give them time. So if you have the DNA, you're watching this, you're listening to this, just wait. I'll let you know, trust me, the moment it becomes workable to use as a daily driver, I will scream from the heavens and let everybody know that it is time to flash. It is time to have a senseless and AOSP ROM for an amazing piece of hardware. All right, so where can you find us every week when we're not live on air? You can find us at AndroidAuthority.com. You can find us on YouTube, which is youtube.com/AndroidAuthority. You can find us on SoundCloud, which is soundcloud.com/AndroidAuthority. On Twitter, AndroidAuth, as well as the place I hate, Facebook. And the place I love, Google+. So find us out on the internet, find us somewhere, listen to us on the show. We are live every Thursday night normally, except for this week. The stars were not aligning, so we couldn't do the show Thursday night, but we're glad we could give you a show before the weekend was over. John, thanks for coming. Dan, thanks for coming. Josh, great to see you again, my friend. Wookie, I hate you. No, I'm just kidding, Wookie. I love you, man. Great to see you, buddy. All right, have a good night, guys.